We're embarking on a new project, the likes that Victor Churchill hasn't seen. It's going to be a grand bar and grill restaurant. It's exciting. Such a great group of people to land back in Australia with.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. It's always a joy to catch up with previous guests on the show, and today's guest has finally made his way back to Australia after taking the US by storm. Monty Koludrovic. How are you, mate?
Really good, buddy. It's under better circumstances I'm on the show this time around.
Yes. Yeah, the world is a little bit different to back then. What's it like being back in Oz?
Mate, it's actually amazing. The decision to come back felt like it went forever, if I'm honest. The toing and froing and the different opportunities arising, and so there's the relief of having made the decision and been through a lot of the hard elements of moving internationally, and then it's just like what an awesome country we have, and being back around people that say Arvo. And you know, just all the cultural things that I didn't realize how much I loved until I'm back at them, and I can throw one coffee cup to the next cafe and it'd be great, you know? That's awesome.
So tell us about what you're doing, and then I want to go back to sort of through the process of how it all sort of started. But what are you doing back in Oz?
So I've partnered up with Anthony and family at Victor Churchill. We're embarking on a new project, the likes that Victor Churchill hasn't seen. It's going to be a grand bar and grill restaurant. And we're at design stage now, so I'm sort of getting familiar with the company and getting to know all the people, and basing out of Armadale at the Victor Churchill Melbourne there, which is an incredible spot. While we work through design, and we're talking 15 months out from opening, so it's all ahead of us. But yeah, it's exciting. Such a great group of people to land back in Australia with.
What an extraordinary family to do that project with and create something like that. It must be very exciting to be part of it. How did it come about? Were you already thinking about coming home for Australia, or did Anthony tap you on the shoulder? What happened?
Yeah, it's you know, I've known Anthony 20 years, and we've kind of, I guess, over the last 12 plus years, the friendship's been getting stronger and stronger. And, you know, when I left to go to the States, he was somewhat of a confidant or someone I'd talk through ideas with, and like moving to America was one of those things. You know, we went for lunch, and that kind of continued when we were overseas, touching base. And I did some work with West Home Wagyu, and I did my due diligence by calling my mate, who happens to be in the right business, to chew the cud over that opportunity. And you know, he made a comment along the lines of they'd be lucky to have you. And you know, he often chooses his words where he shows how confident he is in a statement, you know. And it was along the lines of, I would only do a big project with you if we were going to do something. And it kind of sparked the idea, and that kind of just sat there. There wasn't a project for me to come back to. And it was around the time that I finished up with Botanical Group in West Hollywood. And I kind of felt like my family would see that as an opportunity to come home. That would have put us at like the 3.5 year mark. And we always thought it would be a 3 to 4 year type of adventure that we're on. And that was kind of stalled and kind of weird with the COVID stuff that we all dealt with. But then when that opportunity was there, the family was like kind of happy, and Jackie made the comment that maybe we should try and make it work in LA a bit longer. And, you know, that's a daunting thing to hear when you're not in a job and you're in America and you got to find a sponsor. And so we just thought, just see what happens. And then an opportunity did come up with Victor Churchill. And like, you know, we all know opportunity is one thing. It going through the process and becoming a reality is a different thing. But that opportunity kind of reignited the convo, and we both had, you know, we connected and realized that it was a real thing and that we'd both like to work together. And it didn't go ahead. And then I got tapped by a project in Hollywood, which was also an incredible project and something I'm super thankful for being able to do. And that project's a year old, almost to the day. So I did a year pre-opening and then a year opening. And the time was right to come and join, you know. So yeah, it's been a few years in the making, but not necessarily this project like this at this time.
Tell us about your adventures in the US. What was it like, and what really stood out for you over those sort of 4 years?
Yeah, we could do a few apps on you know, because I experienced it and then I saw it happen to other people. The arrival into LA was it was different than when we visited because we saw the place differently. And moving a young family, you look at your environment and your community and your surrounds. And we arrived, so we did our recon, then we arrived. And even before COVID was the scary thing it became, there was this moment of like, shit, this is kind of crazy and nothing looks normal. Everything feels foreign. It was more so even than moving when I moved to London, because culturally there's a different type of alignment and I didn't have a family. You know, streetscapes are different. The blocks of housing is different. How you get around is different. There's so much different stuff. And food industry the same. Like, you don't land there and you can't pull a Lonely Planet out and find your spots and find your people. And it needs a level of immersion. And so you arrive and you're like, is it me or is this place kind of shit? And it takes a bit to find your people and your places and crack the codes and have life take you to particular pockets you wouldn't have known was going to house these beautiful people and foods. And so that's something that stuck with me, because it's a lesson that until you live it, it's hard to really learn, you know, that we hear things like can't judge a book by its cover and give it time and all that. But until you experience it, you can't understand how it feels. And then subsequently I watch other people move there, and I even watch other brands arrive in LA from different parts of America or Europe or whatever. And I can see that they're going through that same thing. And it speaks to, you know, LA is over there on the west, and historically it's been kind of on its own, and it's just been growing in that way where it's every day it's becoming more like itself and not like other places. So big picture, that's definitely something that like will stick with me, and how good it was once we learned it and got in there. And I could live there for 6 more years and still discover incredible stuff that I don't know exists. Like, my kids were traveling for soccer and skateboarding a lot, and we would, you know, you put in the maps the location and you roughly know where it is, you know, it's an hour southwest or whatever. And then on your way, you're on a freeway and you kind of know this area, we played there once, and then you crest a hill and it's like there's a whole other LA. And you start trying to work out in your head where the mountains are and like what hill am I on and what valley is this, and it just is another huge part. Like, the place is ginormous.
The US, looking from afar, has been somewhat of a turbulent society in the last couple of years. But what was it like for you actually living there and being an Australian? Is it different to what we might see in the media here?
Yeah, there's a few parts to that. It's I guess it doesn't feel like one country necessarily when you're there, because there's really clear differences geographically and politically through the country. And I don't know how many countries I would say that it is, but it's more like 6 than 1. And where we were, it you can't look at US media and it feel like that in LA, put it that way. There was elements of it, and it's a massive multicultural city with different ideas and not one political persuasion, but we didn't feel under threat, never felt persecuted personally. Like there was still this feeling of safety and what became familiarity. There's similarities with Los Angeles and Sydney in lots of ways. So, and there's a bunch of Aussies there. The community, the expat community's super strong, and generally sentiment towards Australians is, people are happy and they're like, oh, you see you guys everywhere, and there's you still feel welcome, But in saying that, like I also felt like I was in the front row watching a show, probably like you, and I probably just understand the news a little bit more personally from my travels and the people I've met. It sits in my head differently. But yeah, it's a crazy joint, and for all the bad stuff, there's as much crazy good stuff going on. Yeah, and there was friends, and there still is friends looking, and they were scratching their heads while we were there, while they actively looked to live somewhere else, which is kind of a funny feeling.
Yeah, unsettling. You mentioned that there was some great positives as well. Have you changed as a person and a cook from your experience, or what were the positives that came out of this journey that you went on?
Definitely changed. Just being out in the world, in the middle of the world, as opposed to down the bottom, and having so far less to travel to different continents. We ended up traveling a lot, and we prioritized using our base there as a port, and focused on taking opportunities to travel. And I really noticed how different, like my last time where I lived in England and traveled the world most frequently, my view of the world and travel and life was so different because I was 20. And, I'm 42, and it's kind of hard to work out the change in my perspective that this place has and how it's worked out from being 36 and 42 and having experienced the highs and lows of parenthood, and but it's a rich and exciting and such varied place that you learn the joy of the human condition, and met so many good people, just like we left behind here. We've made lifelong friendships, and I guess the from a cooking point of view, it's like there's no guardrails in what you can get and how you can get it, really. Like that it's such a food bowl. The ingredients and the producers and the passion and the access is there. And, we arrived as nobodies, and, I really enjoyed the experience in Sydney and in Australia in general of connecting with primary producers and regions and wineries and whatnot. And it's hard, we know people are still out there uncovering gems, but to go through it and feel like everything's new is hard to replicate in a place that isn't new. And going to a new place, you do get to go through that process. I learned a lot about how you can't just plug and play and expect a different market to interact with your stuff in the same way. And that a lot of the times that is a positive because you accidentally present a fresh take on something. And other times it's a bit like, what are you doing? So yeah, growth in general over the last 6 years has been big. And I guess our location and the ride we've been on has helped shape it.
You've got a young family that have done a lot of growing up in the last sort of 4 years. What's the transition been like? Has it been a good transition for the family and having everyone back in Australia? Has it been a good landing?
It has been. We it doesn't get any easier moving internationally. And we moved out of our home in LA November 15th, and I crazily took my son to a soccer academy in Liverpool, and we came back 8 days before leaving America for good. But so we've been out of our home setting from November 15th to January 24th. So it's kind of like, there's definitely hard patches and there's a particular type of weariness that you can go through. But it's been a thrill, and the kids have never wavered. There's been moments that they've been nervous or uncertain, but there's never been the words uttered, touch wood, oh, why did we even come to this place? The kids are frothing, and Blinky gives me a hard time because I'm kind of slow to drop some of the American terminology. So I might tell him, make sure you grab your sweater, and he'll be like, Dad, it's a jumper. So, they're excited. One of the things that they said when we asked them why you're so excited to go back was to be closer to family. And we had a good Christmas on Lord Howe Island with Jackie's extended family, and they're at the great age where they're cruising around on skateboards, and they've got newfound independence here because it's just different living here than in LA. And so, yeah, everyone's happy.
It sounds like a pretty exciting project that you're sinking your teeth into. Tell us what you're loving about what you're doing in the build up to it at the moment.
This period is interesting. There's lots of intense short-term deadlines, even though we're 15 months out, and decisions being made now we're going to live with for the rest of the build-out process and for the next decade. So there's a feeling of pressure, but there's excitement because you spend your whole time in your head in the place, and you don't necessarily do that with tactile things. Like if you're choosing glassware or plates, like you're imagining food on it, or you're imagining how it's going to be presented small scale, but you're not like spending time picturing lines of sight and focal points and paths of travel. And like right now we're spending so much time in this space that doesn't exist. And I like that. I love the process of interacting with all these specialists, the interior designers, the kitchen consultants, people that somehow know where all the services are. And we're not talking about slotting a restaurant into an old terrace. We're moving into an area of a building the size of most suburbs that hasn't been a restaurant before. And so the imagination fact is good. And, Crown have assembled a crazy talented team of culinary development pros from around the world. And likewise, so great having access. And I was in a meeting the other day hearing about all the support channels for all the different areas of things that we're going to have to do. And I haven't had that before. So right now it's exciting just living in that space, and everything's still a possibility at this point.
You've the dining landscape has changed quite a bit since you've been gone. What do you think of the landscape here? Does it feel a little bit different, or does it feel the same? How do you feel about it?
I kind of hit the ground running. I had a few days in Sydney, and that's kind of where my familiarity with the industry lives. And there's obviously been some movement, but it feels like the energy is what I remember, and the crazy talented group of people pushing hospo forward. I still feel it. There's, I guess the dining patterns and how people are using restaurants, it's a tricky one to learn around that Christmas, New Year period anyway. But speaking to people I hear, and there are things that go up and down, but Morgie's still Morgie. Danny Peps just seems to now have a cooking skill across an atlas of cuisines. Justin's opening mega clubs in Rose Bay. Like, not everything's changed.
Yeah. Well, it's an absolute joy to have you back, and can't wait to see what unfolds over the next sort of 15 months. So please keep in touch, and we'll catch up again soon.
Absolutely. Really good to see you all. And I'll be back and forth from Sydney to Melbourne, catching up with the crew. So we'll see you all soon.
Awesome, mate. Thank you. This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Stay safe and be well.